The Phillies are clinging to the final wildcard spot. With their magic number down to 5, it's time to turn this thing around now. However, while the Phillies struggle, the Eagles are the only remaining undefeated team in the NFL, but have a tough test ahead of them tomorrow in the Jaguars. This episode of the Philly Sports Spot YouTube channel starts right now. What's going on, everybody, and welcome into this edition of the Philly Sports Spot YouTube channel. I am your host, Jordan Hirsch. Now, guys, before we get into this video, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel with notifications turned on so you never miss another upload. You could also follow me on Instagram. The link will be in the description below. So let's start out this episode by talking about the Phillies, who struggled this week. They were finally able to end a 5-game losing streak yesterday, defeating the Nationals 5-1. However, before that, as I said, the Phillies were on a 5-game losing streak at one of the most critical points of their season. They went 1-5 this week, and we're going to get right into the Phillies week in review. They kicked it off on Saturday, losing 6-3 to the Braves. That snapped a little 3-game win streak that they had going against both Toronto and Atlanta. Phillies then followed that up with an 11-inning loss on Fan Appreciation Day on Sunday, losing 8-7. Phillies were then off Monday as they went into Chicago to start the most critical 10-game road trip possibly in the team's history, and it did not start out well. Phillies only scored 3 runs in the entire series. The pitching held its own, but the Phillies offense was just nowhere to be found. The Phillies get swept in Chicago. They don't win a single game against the lowly Cubs the entire season. They lose on Tuesday 2-1, then on Wednesday 4-2, and then get shut out on Thursday afternoon's game 2-0. The approach against Chicago was just awful, swinging way too early in counts against some pitchers who will walk you, and the Phillies just had absolutely no patience. They were swinging at a ton of pitches outside the zone. They were missing a lot of good pitches. The Cubs pitchers were not super sharp in that series. It's just the Phillies left a lot of good, they took a lot of good pitches, and they also fouled a bunch off. They were not using the whole field. A lot of balls being pulled on the ground, especially to either first base or third base. Nobody was really thinking gap to gap. And that's I think, probably the main reason that the Phillies got swept in Chicago. Another reason is I do think that they are feeling the pressure right now. The Milwaukee Brewers are currently breathing down the Phillies' necks, just a half game back in the wild card standings. Brewers got a win last night, 1-0. The Brewers certainly helped out the Phillies on Thursday, giving up a grand slam with 2 outs in the 8th inning to the former Brewer, Avisail Garcia of the Marlins. That was certainly, I think, a little bit of a weight lifted off the Phillies' shoulders when they saw that the Brewers were up 2-0 in that game, and the Marlins, Avisail Garcia hits that grand slam, gives the Marlins that 4-2 lead. Marlins win by that score. That kept the Brewers behind the Phillies in the standings, so I think a huge weight lifted off the shoulders there. But anyway, so the Phillies cannot count on the Brewers to lose games, especially against teams like the Marlins. The Phillies have to take care of their own business, and they were able to do a pretty good job of that yesterday, getting a 5-1 win against the Nationals. Phillies have now won 14 of 16 against the Nationals this season. And this is a team that you, quite frankly, should be beating up on. The Washington Nationals are not a good team. They've only won 54 games the entire season. And I do think I think the Phillies should be taking this, of course, one game at a time, but I think a sweep should definitely not be out of the question this weekend. And I think the Phillies probably do need a sweep. Right now, their magic number is at 5. Fangraphs still sides with the Phillies, giving them a 73.6% chance to make the playoffs. Milwaukee only at 34.2%. So the math is still on the Phillies side. Phillies have the extra game in hand, which will be played today. Phillies have a double header today, as we're going to get now into their week ahead. And it is the final week of the regular season. So the Phillies' week ahead looks like this. They will play a doubleheader today, 1:05 and 7:05 against the Nationals. Kyle Gibson's going to get the ball game 1. Noah Syndergaard will get game 2. Zach Wheeler will be then on the mound tomorrow at 1:35, the final game of that Nationals series. And then the Phillies will head to Houston. Now the Astros have clinched the top spot in the American League standings. However, their manager, Dusty Baker, did say earlier this week that he will not rest their top guys, since they will be having that first-round bye in the playoffs, and they will need to keep everybody there fresh and healthy, which means the Phillies will most likely have to face Justin Verlander and Framber Valdez in that series, which starts on Monday. Monday and Tuesday's game both at 8:10, and the final game of the regular season is at 4:10. in Houston. Every game remaining is on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Also want to take a look quickly at the Brewers week ahead. Of course, the Brewers chasing the Phillies, but very, very close right now in the standings. So the Brewers will finish off a 4-game series today and tomorrow against the Marlins. Tonight's game is at 7:10. Tomorrow's game is at 2:10. And then they will finish off the season against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And as long as the Diamondbacks decide not to shut down their pitchers, the Brewers will have to face Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly in that series most likely. So some tough matchups there potentially for the Brewers as that series will begin on Monday with the games at 7:40 Monday and Tuesday, and then another 4:10 game for the Brewers on Wednesday. So both the Phillies and Brewers will both be playing at the exact same time on Wednesday. Corbin Burns is scheduled to start that game for Milwaukee. For the Phillies right now, it's scheduled to be Bailey Falter. Aaron Nola and Ranger Suarez will also get the ball in that Houston series for the Phillies. And it's going to be a very nerve-wracking week, I do think, and that's exactly what, of course, now October, but late September, then playoff race, early October baseball should be. Phillies, the Phillies do still control their own destiny, and they could have their magic number all the way down to 2 if everything goes right today, if they can get a sweep in the doubleheader and maybe get some help by the Marlins up in Milwaukee. This series against the Nationals, of course, is dodging a lot of weather. Hopefully the Phillies are able to get both games in today. I think Game 1 should be played completely through as scheduled. Game 2 will be a little iffy, just looking at the weather a little earlier this morning. Tomorrow's game at 1:35 I think will also be a little iffy again. Of course, this could all change as the track of the storm changes. But right now, I think MLB is going to do everything that they can, everything in their power to be able to play these games this weekend. I do not think that Major League Baseball or the Phillies want to potentially play a game on that in-between day on Thursday, October 6th, which is, of course, the in-between day of the regular season and the start of the playoffs. That will also be my next upload. I'm not going to be posting next Saturday. I will be posting on Thursday as either a Phillies Rage video if they do not make the playoffs, which let's hope it does not come to that, or it will be a Phillies wild card round preview against either the Cardinals or the Braves. So make sure you stay tuned for that, and make sure you have those notifications on, since my next upload will be next Thursday most likely, pretty early on in the afternoon, maybe around 2 o'clock-ish. Is kind of what I'm predicting for that. Alright, so let's switch gears now into the Birds, who are now the only undefeated team remaining in the NFL. They are 3-0. Miami lost on Thursday night, so that allowed the Eagles to now only be the remaining undefeated team in the NFL. And they are going to have they do have a tough test ahead of them against the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially potentially in the weather that game will be played in. However, the Eagles are coming off another very dominant win over the Washington Commanders on Sunday. Eagles win that game 24-8, score all of their points in the second quarter. A little concerning. I'll touch on that later. But the defense, again, looked very sharp, sacking Carson Wentz 9 times. Yes, the Eagles sacked their former quarterback 9 times. The most Carson Wentz has been sacked in his career, and it's just so great to see that comes at the hands of this Eagles defensive line, which had the game of the season to this point for sure on Sunday with those 9 sacks. Eagles defense, the linebackers and safeties, corners, they all looked very good again. Washington, of course, only scoring that 1 touchdown late in pretty much garbage time at that point. But the offense, I mean, enough talk about the defense. The offense has been fantastic, was fantastic yet again. Another ho-hum 300-plus yard game for Jalen Hurts. He goes 22 for 35, 340 yards, another 3-touchdown game for him as well. Eagles did not really have to use the running back position all that much. The leading rusher was Miles Sanders at only 46 yards. But when your wide receivers and quarterback are playing as good as they've been playing, it's okay if Miles Sanders is only racking up 46 yards a game. How about Devontae Smith, though? A.J. Brown mentioned it in Week 1 after his 155-yard game, and I kind of touched on it last week as well. But Devontae Smith having the game of his career on Sunday, 169 yards, 8 receptions, and a touchdown. And how about those 2 plays that he had in the second quarter on the same drive? The 50-yard pass play that got him to the goal line. We went up and absolutely just mossed that one. Poor Washington defensive back, and then on 4th down and goal, later in that drive, going up and getting another spectacular touchdown catch for the Eagles. So Devontae Smith has undoubtedly the best game of his young NFL career. on Sunday, and he will look to continue that, as well as will the rest of the Eagles look to continue that momentum going into tomorrow's game against the now 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. I expect the Jaguars to probably come out and run a lot in this game. They're coming off a big 38-10 win against the Chargers, and with the weather situation that looks like it's going to unfold tomorrow, I think it's going to be a ground and pound game. Jacksonville, of course, with two very good running backs in Robinson and then Travis Etienne. Robinson, of course, goes for 100 yards on the nose last week in that 38-10 win over the Chargers in Los Angeles on just 17 carries. Trevor Lawrence had a very good game as well, going 28 for 39, 262 yards, a 3-touchdown game for him as well. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, they are right now in first place in the AFC South. I don't think anybody saw that coming, but they are now all of a sudden a formidable opponent for the Eagles. And I do think that if the Eagles are going to want to win this game, they're going to have to solve their little second half troubles they've had. They have not scored a point in the last 2 second halves. However, both of those games were kind of garbage time as the Eagles got out to such big leads in the first half. But it is a little concerning not seeing them score later in games. I don't think it's going to be a major problem. Of course, we'll see what happens this week. And I think that if the Eagles are going to want to win this game, they are going to have to score some points in the second half. I think it's a close game throughout. But I do think that the Eagles remain undefeated, go to 4-0. I have the Eagles winning 24-20, so it would be another 24-point game for the Eagles if that score is true. It would be their third consecutive, in fact. So I have the Eagles winning 24-20, close game, low scoring because of the weather. But I think the Eagles do go to 4-0 into a very tough test next week against Arizona. And finally this week, I did want to bring up some preseason schedules to get to for both the Flyers and now the Sixers. As the Flyers are going to wrap up their preseason this week, they play today, 1 o'clock up in Beantown against the Bruins. Flyers, Bruins there. And then they have a home against the Islanders. They'll take on the Islanders tomorrow in New York. And then on Tuesday, they'll play the Islanders in Philly. That will wrap up their preseason schedule. Flyers right now 1-2 on the preseason. Then getting into the Sixers preseason schedule, they're going to tip off their preseason against the Brooklyn Nets up in Brooklyn on Monday at 7:30. Then later this week on Wednesday, they will play the Cavaliers at home at 7 o'clock. That's Wednesday against the Cavs. Alright, and that is going to wrap things up for this edition of the Philly Sports Spot YouTube channel. Again, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to my channel with notifications turned on so you never miss another upload. I typically post every Saturday, however my next upload will be this Thursday, October 6th. So make sure you have notifications turned on for that. You also follow me on Instagram. The link will be down in the description below, or you just look me up. It's at Philly Sports Spot. That is PhillysSportSpot. So just one S between sport and spot. And until Thursday, Eagles, let's go to 4-0. And come on, Phillies, let's get to the playoffs for the first time since 2011. We are oh so close.